You were not born to shrink. You were not carved from stardust and fire to spend your life bowing to the mediocre rhythm of a world that forgot how to dream. You were not designed to spend your sacred breath reciting the opinions of others, marching to the beat of fear, apologizing for your intensity, for your hunger, for the storm in your chest. No, you were born to conquer, not to comply. There is a war happening beneath the surface of your skin, a silent ancient war between who you truly are and who the world has trained you to be. And every time you choose silence when your soul demands roar, every time you settle for what is easy instead of what is yours, you betray your birthright. Because deep down you know this life, this one brief, extraordinary life, is not a rehearsal. It is the battlefield of becoming. And you were not placed here to repeat someone else's lines. You were meant to write your own legend. Friedrich Nietzsche once said, "The individual has always had to struggle to keep from being overwhelmed by the tribe." The moment you decide to break from the herd, the moment you dare to rise, the world will try to pull you back down. It will hand you chains and call them comfort. It will preach obedience and call it peace. But peace without purpose is not peace. It is surrender. You were not made to be tamed. You were made to master yourself. And that begins now. Because your mind is not a cage, it is a forge, a furnace in which the weapons of destiny are made. But here's the truth most never want to hear. The default setting of the mind is weakness, compliance, safety, survival. Your mind will fight you the moment you begin to build something greater than what you've known. It will whisper, "That's too much. Who are you to try? Stay small, stay safe." But greatness was never found in safety. Power was never found in playing dead. You must learn to think like a sovereign, not a servant, to command your thoughts instead of being commanded by them. To kill the weak version of yourself, the one that waits, hesitates, overthinks, compromises, and rise in the image of the one who leads, who builds, who becomes. Edison failed 10,000 times, not because he was lucky, but because his mind obeyed his will, not the other way around. Carnegie was not born a titan. He was a child of poverty, but he fed his mind books, principles, obsession, and from that furnace he forged empires. Lincoln suffered depression that would have drowned weaker men, but he chose clarity of mind over comfort, purpose over peace, duty over despair. The moment you take control of your mind is the moment you take control of your life, but you must tear the old software out by the root. You must abandon the herd's language, the language of blame, delay, and weakness, and speak the dialect of power, discipline, vision, action, fire, because belief is not given, it is built. And your beliefs will become the architecture of your future. You see, what you believe about yourself is what you will become. Not what you say you believe, not what you hope to believe, but what you have burned into your nervous system through repetition, action, and ruthless honesty. Most people wait for confidence to come before they act. They wait for belief to descend from the heavens like some divine miracle. But belief is not a gift. It is a conquest. Confidence is not something you get. It is something you earn. And you earn it by facing the furnace of self-doubt and walking through it anyway. Think of every titan of history. They were not born special. What made them different was not talent. It was conviction. Walt Disney was fired from a newspaper for lack of imagination. He kept going. Oprah was told she was unfit for television. She kept going. Henry Ford went broke 5 times before building the motor that changed the world. He kept going. They were not lucky. They were not chosen. They were obsessed. They were relentless. They were clear. And clarity is a weapon. The moment you know exactly who you are and what you're here to build, the world can no longer seduce you with distractions. The critics lose their power. The noise fades. The path appears. Not because the world changed, but because you did. Clarity turns chaos into strategy, but you will never find clarity by waiting. You find it by deciding, by moving, by choosing. Stop waiting for permission to live with purpose. The clock is ticking. The grave is approaching. And your destiny does not care about your doubts. It only responds to your decisions. You don't need more motivation. You need more vision. A man with a vision becomes a force. He becomes dangerous. Because he is no longer living by reaction. He is living by design. A woman who knows what she was born to build cannot be stopped. She doesn't beg for approval. She doesn't ask for the map. She becomes the map. But vision requires sacrifice. You cannot have vision and comfort. You cannot have destiny and distraction. You cannot have purpose and still be liked by everyone. If you want to rise, you must burn the bridges behind you. You must make becoming non-negotiable. You must treat your calling like oxygen, not an option. Because there are no guarantees. There is only the fire in your chest. There is only the war between the version of you that wants to survive and the one that was born to conquer. And every day you delay, the chains grow tighter, but every day you choose to rise, the vision gets clearer, and purpose begins to whisper, keep going. The world does not reward the man who waits. It does not bless the passive, the compliant, the comfortable. It rewards the one who dares, the one who disciplines himself into a force of nature, unmovable, untouchable, undeniable. Discipline is not punishment, it is power. It is the act of bending reality to your will by first bending your habits into alignment with your purpose. Most people think greatness comes in grand, cinematic moments. It doesn't. It comes in silence, in solitude. In the mornings when the weak version of you begs for the snooze button and you rise anyway. In the evenings when your friends are scrolling and numbing and you're still building, still writing, still studying, still sharpening your blade. This is the truth no one wants to hear. Destiny is expensive, and the price is daily discipline. Because you are not just building a future, you are sculpting a self. Every action, every rep, every choice, every sacrifice is a chisel stroke carving you into who you were meant to be. You don't stumble into power. You earn it in the dark. You earn it when no one's clapping, when no one's watching, when it's just you and the voice inside you that says, keep going. He who cannot obey himself will be commanded. Nietzsche didn't whisper those words. He declared them. Because he knew. The undisciplined man is always ruled by his fears, his habits, his impulses, his past. But the disciplined man becomes ruler of himself, and from there he rules everything else. You want freedom? Discipline is the gate. You want peace? Discipline is the path. You want power? Discipline is the cost. And once discipline becomes your baseline, action becomes inevitable. Action is the oxygen of the conqueror. You think your way into clarity, yes, but you act your way into greatness. Action cuts through fear like a blade through fog, because fear is a liar. It's loud in your mind, but weak in reality. The moment you move toward what scares you, the illusion shatters. You realize it was never the mountain that was immovable, it was your hesitation. Stop waiting to feel ready, you won't. Stop waiting for certainty, it never comes. Start moving, start doing. Start building momentum so powerful, so undeniable, that even your old self can't recognize you. Nietzsche said, become who you are. Not wait until you feel like it. Not hope the world gives you permission. No, become. That's not a suggestion. That's a command, because purpose without action is fantasy. You can speak all the mantras you want. You can journal and visualize and wish. But if your feet aren't moving, you're lying to yourself. The universe bends not to the dreamers, but to the doers. And here's the secret. When you act in alignment with your deepest calling, the world begins to conspire in your favor. Not because of magic, but because of movement. Because action unlocks clarity. Action attracts resources. Action breeds confidence. And action, real, relentless action, scares the hell out of average people. And good, let it. Because you were not born to blend in. You were not born to fit into the mold of a society that fears greatness. You were born to break the mold, to crack the sky with your fire, to make your existence echo through eternity. But you must train your mind for war, not for comfort, because comfort is seductive. It will lull you to sleep with soft words. It will convince you that mediocrity is safety, that surrender is maturity, that giving up is wise. But you must learn to love the discomfort, to choose it, to become the kind of person who sees pain and steps toward it, who sees a challenge and grins, who sees fear and laughs, because every struggle is a message, and the message is clear. This is where you grow. No conqueror was forged in luxury. They were born in hardship, raised by fire, baptized in chaos, and instead of running from it, They rose. And you are no different. You may not have the crown yet, you may not have the results, but you have the raw material, you have the spark. And if you choose it, if you commit, if you bleed for it, you will rise. But understand, this is not a single decision. This is a way of life. You must wake up every day and kill the version of you that settles. You must wage war against your lower self, the self that wants to scroll, quit, shrink, hide, because if you don't destroy him, he will destroy you. This is not hyperbole. This is fact. You are either rising or rotting. There is no neutral. There is no pause button on destiny. There is no coasting to greatness. And the greatest tragedy is not failure. It's success at the wrong thing. It's waking up one day with the applause of the world, but the regret of the soul. It's realizing you lived a life of imitation and never once tasted your own potential. So I ask you, will you comply? Will you trade your fire for comfort, your calling for convenience, your roar for approval, or will you rise? Will you bleed for what you were born to build? Will you stop waiting for motivation and become it? Will you stop asking for permission and start creating your kingdom? Because no one is coming to save you. No one is going to hand you your destiny wrapped in velvet. You must take it, with blood, with tears, with relentless, unreasonable, unbreakable action, because the world bows to those who refuse to break. And you were born for this. You were born to lead, to create, to conquer. So act like it. But understand this. To conquer does not mean to dominate others. It means to dominate yourself. It means to stand tall while your fears scream, to walk forward while your legs shake, to speak truth while your voice trembles. The conquest begins within. Every enemy you will ever face, fear, doubt, mediocrity, weakness, already lives inside of you. And until you defeat them within, you will see them in the world again and again like ghosts repeating themselves in different forms. You must become a hunter of your own limitations, find them, name them, break them. Because the weak man looks at a mountain and says, "Too high," the conqueror sees the same mountain and says, "Good, let it come, let it try." You see, most people never build anything lasting because they cannot endure the silence, the long stretches of solitude, of uncertainty, where only their inner voice is present. They panic. They run back to noise, to distraction, to the comfort of mediocrity. But if you can learn to sit in that silence, if you can stay still in the fire, you will hear something most people never hear. Purpose. The world is loud, filled with opinions, expectations, pressure, but purpose is quiet. It doesn't scream, it whispers, and it only whispers to those brave enough to shut out the world long enough to listen. You must build that relationship with yourself, deep, unshakable, intimate. You must become your own ally, your own general, your own relentless force, because in the end, it will not be the opinions of others that define you. It will be the decisions you made when no one else was watching. Nietzsche believed that the individual must become their own lawgiver, their own compass, their own God, not out of arrogance, but out of necessity. Because if you don't write the laws of your life, the world will. And their laws are not written for your greatness. They are written for your obedience. You must become the author of your reality. That means you don't react, you create. That means you don't wait, you initiate. That means you don't shrink. You expand, no matter how small the room, no matter how hostile the environment, no matter how long it takes. Because destiny is not time-based. It is decision-based. You can wait 10 years for the right time and it will never come. Or you can decide right now that this is the hour your life begins to shift, not with fanfare, but with quiet, uncompromising resolve. That is what separates legends from the forgotten. They move without applause. They build without permission. They bleed without pity. They rise without excuses. And they never, ever stop. You must cultivate that obsession, that sacred fire inside of you that says, "I will not die like this. I will not die full of potential. I will not die having complied with a world that feared my power." Because if you do not obsess over your purpose, you will fall victim to the distractions of a world that profits from your apathy. They want you numb. They want you quiet. They want you compliant, but you were not born to be tamed. You were born to own your space, to claim your calling, to rise like a lion into a world of sleeping sheep, and make them remember your name. But make no mistake, the climb will test you. There will be days when the weight feels unbearable, when your dream feels out of reach, when your mind tells you you're not good enough, you're not strong enough. Who do you think you are? And that is the moment you answer. Not with words, with action. You show up anyway. You train anyway. You write, speak, lead, build anyway. Because real power is forged in resistance, like a muscle torn and rebuilt stronger, like steel pressed under fire, like a warrior bleeding but still charging forward. You want to conquer? You must suffer. But don't run from the suffering. Use it. Every scar is a sentence in your story. Every bruise is proof that you didn't fold. Every setback is fuel. Because while the average man complains, the conqueror converts pain into progress. Thomas Edison failed over and over. Not because he was unlucky, but because he understood something most people don't. Failure is not the opposite of success. It is the crucible of success. Nietzsche called it amor fati, love of fate. Loving everything that happens to you, not just enduring it, but embracing it, using it, wielding it like a weapon. That is power. When the world sees obstacles, you see opportunity. When the weak beg for rescue, you become the rescuer. When the masses bow to fear, you rise in fire. That's what it means to conquer. It means you don't just survive the storm, you become the storm. Because destiny is not handed to you. It is taken, by force, by will, by obsession. You must rip it from the jaws of resistance and make it yours. The truth is this. Inside of you is a force so powerful, so relentless, so undeniable, that if you ever fully unleashed it, the world would have no choice but to move. But that force cannot be accessed by comfort. It cannot be accessed by approval, by fitting in, by being polite. It is only unlocked through war, internal war, the war against your past, against your patterns, against your mediocrity, against the smallness you inherited from a world that was afraid of your greatness. And when you win that war, not once but every single day, you will begin to see what's possible. You will feel something stir inside of you, something ancient, something divine, and it will whisper, "You were born for more. You were born to rise. You were born to conquer, not to comply. So rise, not tomorrow, not when it feels easy, now, while doubt still lingers, now, while your past still haunts, now, while fear clutches at your throat like a parasite begging to survive. Because power is not the absence of fear, it's moving anyway. The lion does not wait for silence before it roars into the noise, and makes the silence follow. And that is what you must become, the force that shifts reality simply by showing up. The man who moves like destiny walks with him, the one they said would never make it, until he did. Because every great figure who walked this earth, every builder, every thinker, every leader who altered the course of history, they were once just a single human with a decision. Lincoln, mocked, doubted, defeated, until he rose to become the soul of a nation's moral reckoning. Ford, dismissed, ridiculed, misunderstood, until he turned the impossible into the inevitable. Disney, told he lacked imagination, until his vision reshaped reality. Carnegie, a poor immigrant boy working in the factories, until he wielded vision like a weapon and built an empire from steel and sweat. They did not wait for the world to crown them. They forged their own crowns from rejection, from discipline, from the unshakable belief that they were meant for more. And so are you. This world is not short on talent. It is not short on potential. It is short on courage. It is starving for the few who dare to act on the quiet roar inside their chest that says, "You are not like them. You are not meant to sleepwalk through life. You are not meant to betray your gifts for comfort. You are meant to burn with purpose, to rise like fire through a forest of apathy, to breathe vision and make the ground shake when you walk. But to become that, you must leave the old version of you behind. You must bury him, the one who hesitated, who doubted, who complied, who feared judgment. Because that man cannot walk into the future you were born for. That man must die, so that the conqueror within you can be born. This is your rebirth, not in theory, in decision, in daily discipline, in relentless action, in ruthless clarity. Every step you take now is a declaration. I will not live as a shadow of who I could be. I will not give my life to a system that fears my power. I will not shrink to fit into spaces I was born to transform. From this moment forward, you choose. You choose discomfort over delusion, vision over validation, destiny over distraction. You choose to walk alone, if that's what it takes to become whole. You choose to be feared by the mediocre, envied by the weak, admired by the courageous, because you became what they all refused to be, fully alive, fully accountable, fully free. And hear this. Freedom is not ease. Freedom is earned. It is built through discipline, hardened by failure, sealed by resilience, and kept alive through devotion to something higher than comfort, purpose. And when you live from that place, everything changes. You don't chase results. They come. You don't seek followers. They gather. You don't beg for approval. You radiate such conviction that the world bends to your presence. Because purpose is magnetic. Real purpose doesn't whisper, it commands. It commands your habits, your focus, your energy, your life. And if you serve it with everything you have, it will take you further than any dream, any fortune, any applause ever could. Because what you're building now is not just a legacy. You are building a soul forged in the fires of discipline, hunger, obsession. A soul that cannot be broken, cannot be bought, cannot be silenced. And when you reach the end, when you stand before your own mortality, you will not fear death, because you lived, you conquered. You gave this life everything, not because it was easy, not because it was certain, but because the voice inside you refused to die. That voice, the ancient one, the wild one, the immortal one, it still speaks, and this is what it says. Do not bow, do not wait, do not ask, rise. Walk as if you were chosen. Act as if fate is yours to command. Live as if the gods themselves carved your name into the edge of destiny, because they did. And now it is your turn to prove them right. You were not born to comply. You were born to conquer. Now go and become.